So many faces. I'd like to call open session to order, and we'll start with the Pledge of Allegiance.
Good evening, Board of Trustees. Gives me great pleasure to introduce JD right here, sir.
Oh, okay.
This is JD Pendleton, one of our finest fourth graders, very shy and retiring, as I'm sure you've figured out.
Shy.
So JD, he's been trained and he knows what to do. It's your turn.
Okay. Everyone, please stand. Place your hand on your heart. Ready? Begin. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Now, I will say the Soquel Union Elementary School District mission statement. Staff, students, parents, and the community help ensure that each child develops the skills and character necessary for lifelong achievement and responsible citizenship in a diverse world.
Hi.
Thank you, JD. We have a lovely write-up about you that I will read. JD is a motivated and enthusiastic student who exemplifies the Main Street way. JD is always willing to help anyone in need, students and teachers alike. One way JD helps others at Main Street is by being part of Safety Patrol. Twice a week, JD reports on time to ensure that younger students make it safely to their destination at pickup time. JD has a great sense of humor and has developed a voice in his writing that is all his own and makes his readers stand up and take notice. His authentic self also shines through his Genius Hour projects and his art. Not only is he an amazing student, he is also a talented actor and a lively podcast guest. People should also know that his favorite animal is a gorilla and that he loves antique toys. There are so many ways that JD has made someone's day better, made someone smile, made someone laugh, that we could fill this certificate front and back. But we will conclude with this. JD is consistently true to himself and is a light in our world. We need more people like JD who live honestly and have a strong moral compass. We can all feel safer in this world knowing he will grow up and be adulting in it. Congratulations, JD.
Amen. That is a really beautiful speech. Right?
I cannot take credit for it. Ms. Wilson, did you write that?
Yeah.
Oh. We like to ask the students a few questions if you don't mind us.
Oh, I do not mind, in fact. I love interrogation.
Hey, Katie, thanks for bringing some flair in here.
Yeah.
Really.
Thank you.
It's gonna make it great tonight. You set the tone. So I want to hear about your podcast. Are you a podcast guest or you have your own podcast?
Well, for Genius Hour, these two girls put me in a podcast as their guest, really.
Okay.
Yeah.
And what questions did they ask or what did you talk about?
They basically asked what was my favorite snack, what was my favorite animal, and lots of other questions.
What is your favorite snack?
Goldfish, peanut butter pretzels, or tomato basil pea snaps. Good, get them all for your family. Thumbs up, everybody.
Yeah, there we go.
Did you have your own Genius Hour project?
Yes, multiple.
Well, can you tell us about some of your projects?
Well, one of my projects was a site about the musical Jolly Jim. The other one was just the most random thing ever. How to make the most random thing ever. And I got the answer.
What is the answer?
It's called this slideshow presentation called Goat.
Oh,
I don't know why I did. That's just an idea I made.
I love it. That's so neat. Could you tell us about art? Sounds like you're interested in art. Any particular medium you like? What do you enjoy about art?
Oh, well, I enjoy that you can express your feelings by just drawing whatever comes out of your head. For example, Ferris wheels, roller coasters, and chimpanzees. All examples which I draw.
Awesome.
That's so cool.
Yeah.
So you put the same into your writing as well?
Yeah, I try to write my feelings and just write whatever I can think of.
That is a fun read.
Yeah.
Yes, definitely it is.
It's such a mature perspective. So it's really awesome that you've discovered that that's a way that you can express yourself. Do you do theater or performances? You have such a personality. I'm just wondering if you've done any theater.
Yes, definitely, absolutely. I've done like it 5 times, I think, 5 plays, including the school ones.
Oh,
Yep.
nice.
Yep.
And what is one of your favorite things about Main Street?
The kids are awesome. Like a lot of the kids are awesome. You teach them amazing, guys. Staff, the staff, man, it's amazing.
Right on.
And that includes you, Scott.
Wow.
I like this.
Oh my God.
Well, it has just been amazing to have you here, JD. We
Yeah.
have some small gifts so you can come and choose for yourself. We also have a gift certificate to the Two Birds bookstore on 41st. So you can go and splurge and get yourself a fun book. So come get a notebook or I don't know, various things.
Okay.
And we'd love to get a picture with you.
Oh, I love that.
Family. Miss Wilson?
Miss Wilson. Oh, stop. It would be honored if you
So cool. So
Yeah,
Stick around tonight.
let's start it.
you want to.
Okay, now I'd like to be around. I'd like to.
They have. Oh, this.
You're right.
Oh, yes.
This one.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you for coming.
Thank you all for inviting me there.
Thank you.
We appreciate you.
I go.
I hope to see you on the screen.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yes.
I want to see you guys.
Elegant Theater, the Santa Cruz Community Theater, he does all this.
Oh, that's right, yeah. Like,
Thanks, everybody.
She said teacher.
Oh, okay.
And I know.
hold that down.
You have no idea.
Just curious.
Okay.
In the end,
It's just like it's so weird.
You know, we got it. Oh, yeah, sure. We can do it later. Okay, 5 minutes.
It's great to see so many members of CNS here tonight.
Yeah, I
What a
know.
good
I know.
flyer.
I love the sweatshirts.
Yeah.
Very cool.
Yeah.
I can feel the support.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Right.
She's still working the crowd.
All right.
That's good.
Oh.
All right. We have some fun stuff too.
That's
Let's start with a roll call.
Trustee Donnelly,
Present.
trustee Jackson Miller, present, trustee Gray,
President.
trustee Edmondson,
Present.
and we heard from trustee Dickinson that he's just gonna be a little bit late today.
Great. All right. May I have an adoption of the agenda?
I'll make the motion.
A second?
I'll second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? All right. Consent agenda. May I have an adoption of the consent agenda?
I will make a motion to approve the consent agenda.
All right, a second?
I'll go ahead and second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? All right. Public communication.
Email.
All right, anything in person? No?
Not today.
All right, moving on to standing reports. Would you like
I'm
to
gonna go
start us
first.
off?
I'd love to, and then in light of the robust agenda, I'm gonna make it very quick. Just like to thank SEA for a good round of negotiations. We have a principal tentative agreement that we still have to work up and bring to the board, and they have to ratify and everything, but thank you to the chief negotiator, Ms. Wilson, who was here earlier tonight, and for the positive work on that. Lots of Measure P work, design team and facility meetings, lots of work being done there, and very appreciative of the whole team. And last night, Santa Cruz Gardens had a Know Your Rights presentation for our immigrant community, teaching them about their rights in addition to childcare safety plans. So Community Action Board, Cradle to Career, COE, lots of partners helping with that. So, and kudos to Principal Albano for working to make sure that that happened for his parent community. That's all for me.
Great.
Right.
Yeah.
I will also be brief tonight. I will just add on to Scott's excitement about our certificated negotiations last week. Super collaborative and successful. Great feelings all the way around. Want to give a couple of other shout outs. The first is for our DLI team. I met with them last week and we did a curriculum audit for what they have and what they need. Moving into the 3rd grade year and the new rollout year. So very excited to be working with them. And then the last shout out, and that includes another member in our audience tonight, and Craig Broadhurst is our TK principal representative with our TK trainings, and all of our TK teachers, with the exception of one, have been participating in those trainings, and the last one last week was fantastic. So give a big shout out to that team.
All right.
And I will be super quick, just piggybacking on what both Jessica and Scott said regarding SEA. It was really nice negotiations. Appreciate that. And finished up second interim along with a lot of the bond stuff that's going on and the new Brighton field, but you're going to be hearing from me later on and a bunch of different fronts. So
All right. Moving on to CSEA.
I wrote something.
Esteemed board members and superintendent, I kindly ask for your understanding as public speaking is not my strongest suit. Nurse. My name is Noelle Slay and I'm a graduate of SoCal Elementary and New Brighton Middle School. Additionally, I'm a proud parent of a former Heron who is now a Viking. It brings me great joy to be here this evening representing the members of the CSEA. Enrique is supporting the 7th grade girls volleyball team tonight as their championship game at Mission Hill, so he can't be here. This marks my 2nd year with the district, where I am currently at SoCal L in the CNS program, commonly known as the Lunch Lady, as well as ELOP program at Santa Cruz Gardens. I'm truly thankful to be part of the SoCal Elementary School District. Finishing my 6 years as a room parent at Main Street last year left a significant void that I'm grateful to have filled here. I love the kiddos. Thank you once again for your support, and we look forward to continuing a wonderful year together.
Well done.
Wow.
Yeah.
All right. Thanks for that update. Any items from SEA?
Yeah, ran over here from the Washington trip, so I've got to read this. So, at SoCal Elementary, the kindergartners had great success with their leprechaun traps and want to know more. 2nd graders are wrapping up their sea creature reports and transforming their classroom into an aquarium. It looks really cool. 3rd graders are preparing for our upcoming multicultural heritage celebration by working on family trees and conducting ancestor interviews. 5th graders had an amazing time at science camp, rain and all. At Santa Cruz Gardens, the SCG students enjoyed a fascinating assembly with Watsonville Wetland Watch, featuring mounted local animals and even a live snake. We are also hosting an immigrant community support meeting on the 18th and are excited to collaborate with the dance consultants. Plus, our Dolphin Dash fundraiser is just around the corner. SCG 5th graders had a blast at science camp, especially getting to experience it alongside their peers at Main Street in SoCal. Main Street Elementary. Main Street's fifth graders just returned from the soggiest science camp yet. There's a theme here.
Yeah.
But that didn't dampen their enthusiasm for this beloved tradition. We are gearing up for our annual Heron Hustle Jogathon this Friday at the Soquel High Track. Meanwhile, third graders have started their capoeira unit with Habiba, and Miss Mary's class recently celebrated Career Week. Fourth graders made math extra sweet by celebrating Pie Day with homemade pies. At New Brighton Middle School, we just wrapped up a successful week of parent conferences and celebrated an impressive third quarter of sports. Go Vikings! Including an undefeated volleyball team. All right, students celebrated Pie Day last week by bringing pies to math class. And there was a lot of pies. I saw them piled up in the office. With state testing on the horizon, we're preparing for a strong finish to the school year. Additionally, SEA has presented the district administration with our sunshine articles for the 2025-2026 successor contract. We are attaching a copy of this addendum to our board statement this evening. Thank you.
All right, thank you so much for that. Moving on to items from trustees.
I'll start. I attended the Measure P design team meeting last week, but I won't spoil it. I'll save it for the presentation here. Otherwise, I have nothing else to report out on.
Same. Design team. Great. Nothing else to report.
I just happened to attend a Santa Cruz Chamber event this evening at the Dream Inn, and well represented with county folks there and quite a few people. It was a wonderful event. Yeah.
The only thing I'll say is my son was one of those New Brighton kids who got to enjoy lots of pie and sweets for Pie Day, so it's just a fun thing that his math teacher.
Aren't they supposed to bring that into board meetings?
You didn't have your board meeting on 3/14?
That's right.
No.
Yeah.
Got it.
We'll have to change that calendar.
Yeah.
So I got to participate in a county Office of Education event. It was a board panel for new administrators clearing their credential. So that was neat to be on the panel and hear about new people coming through the program. And I'd like to acknowledge that we have a lot of nutrition service people here. It's so great to see everybody. Yeah, and I see that we have some of these new job things. So that's, are you showing your support? I just I love it. I love it. I love it. Well, you guys do such a great job and we're so lucky to have you. Yeah.
I know, I'm hungry.
Awesome. Very cool. All right, moving on to presentations. All right, here it comes. We have a presentation from VJ Jayachandran from Stacked about the Measure P design team meeting.
Got to put in the enthusiasm or flex.
Or you could hire him at some point. Yeah.
Yeah, you could. Good evening. So just to give you an update, I think the last time we presented some ideas, options for the fields. So today we're just going to show a more refined version of it. So where we are with the site, we've sort of identified what the configurations are going to be on each of the school sites. And now we're embarking on doing the technical drawings, engaging our consultants. So I'll run through most of the stuff. You've seen it in the last presentation, but I'll just run through some of the stuff that we've sort of narrowed down. Earlier when we presented it, there were lots of options. Now we've narrowed it down. Field material. We're looking at the field turf. That's the company. It's cork-based. It's what we're using for the fields as well as the jogging track that runs around the fields. The shade structures, we still have three options. One is a DSA PC. It's pre-approved fabric shade structures that we plan to use only in the amphitheater areas. when we met with the school sites, they all expressed an desire to have metal shade structures in the lunch areas because they want to be able to sit outside. Fabric doesn't allow you to sit outside because it's water still seeps through. These are some of the fabric. Again, it's the same. These are also fabric. So we may use some customized solution, especially in the amphitheater area. We may use some of those configurations. And then these are the metal ones that we'll use for lunch. I'm just running through. Feel free to stop me, ask questions. So this is again the same slide that we had before. We're just showing different options, how we may integrate fabric shade structures in amphitheaters. Site lighting, we narrowed it down to the post and ones that are mounted on the wall. We're not using bollards. I think the last time everyone had expressed concern.
Hurdling over them.
Especially?
Yeah, those, those,
Yeah,
right. Just imagining the fun people would have with us.
And then hydration stations, these are for the outside. We're using a high-low hydration station. Fencing and gates, the same thing. We're using ornamental fencing. Gates where we need them to be accessible. And then in some areas, we'll use panelized, at strategic locations, we'll use some panelized and decorative fencing.
Did we nix the crayon fence?
Yes, we did.
I didn't vote on that one.
We could flip them over.
Yeah, exactly. The eraser on top.
Amphitheater. This is what everyone's agreed on, using a concrete seating with synthetic turf infill. And we'll have the protections for anti-skaters, skateboarders. Okay, so going on to the site plan, SoCal. So SoCal is very similar to what we showed last time. 2 small practice fields, the jogging track around. The jogging track is approximately 1/6 of a mile running around. It seats approximately, and then we have an amphitheater to the southwest corner on this diagram, seating roughly 390 folks. And then this area, number 6, this is just a little gathering area before an event, family things hanging out.
And that's gonna be turf as well.
It's all turf. It's part of the project that we plan to do. In the front, we need to have a ramp to make it accessible. So we'll probably we'll build the ramp as part of this project. And then the actual reconfiguration of the admin area, we'll do it during the modernization project. But this is exterior stuff we'll do along with this package. Idea of a lunch shelter in the TKK area, it will be metal. And this is just a view showing what it's going to look like. Wow.
Wow, isn't that cool?
Yeah.
It's really cool.
Such a great spot for us.
So the amphitheater is tucked into that corner. It's it has wooded area behind it. We're still debating whether to have that shade structure. We may not need it because I think there'll be ample shade anyways. We haven't decided exactly. Just in the view. Main Street. Okay, so Main Street, we have the full-size soccer field and 2 small practice fields.
Oh, interesting.
And then we'll have the baseball that's configured to not license it, but to lease it out to Little League. And what's not shown here, but will be shown, is that this could be configured as a softball, because there's questions came up in all our design meetings to accommodate softball also. So
BJ, I thought we had two baseball diamonds on this field.
Right, so there is one here.
Oh, okay,
yeah.
Thinking of configuring that for softball.
okay.
And the amphitheater is going to be tucked in out here. Well, it's a natural slope there, so we thought it's the best place for an amphitheater.
What about a dugout in the baseball field? Is that
Yes,
that in there?
There is.
Yeah.
Definitely.
okay?
It's-
In both or just
No, just
the
one.
official one?
It's tough to get it here
Yeah.
because it interferes with the soccer.
And we're going with the scoreboards?
We're going to
Excellent.
And this is, there's a desire expressed by the site committee to have, make it completely for lunch, so we have metal shade structures in that area. That's a view. So you can see how that is sort of tucked in the slope.
And what kind of protection do you have for the solar panels from baseballs?
We do actually,
netting?
we're thinking of, it's probably not very visible out here, but you can see the shaded part. Thinking of having netting that's mounted on that.
Great.
View of the shade structure. Sorry, the amphitheater with the shade structure on.
Is that shade structure, is that what we're going with Main Street, or is this just a like?
It's just now very early.
Okay. I asked because I really liked the one at SoCal. It just seemed more open than this one. This
Yeah.
one feels kind of confining.
Yeah.
If I know that's not a
Good
word,
point.
but you know what I mean.
Yeah.
And then for the actual kids sitting at the amphitheater, is there gonna be any shade for them? Cause if they're out there past 10 a.m., there's gonna be a lot of sun in their faces.
Yeah, you're right, because this is south.
Yeah.
Yeah, so the sun's moving this
Yeah.
way. So yeah, it will be a consideration. But we have to weigh this against costs.
Yes.
And that's gonna be the challenge. Just on the view. And that's the lunch sheet area.
And so that, the one that's on, sort of on the left of the screen, is that the one where it's close to the MU room?
Yes.
Yeah. The white buildings throw me off. I get we shouldn't spend the time colorizing everything in your, but I'm like, wait.
Yeah, VJ, where is this? This is a playground?
Where the
This
pit
is where
is,
the-
yeah,
That's where the old
The
amphitheater.
pit is.
yeah, so,
So the view is this way. Looking at both these shade structures.
There's that grassy area that kind of swoops down that you can't use for anything right
Yeah.
now, surrounded by cement pillars.
Yeah.
Not too far from the
Yes.
office, there, so that
Oh,
it's usable.
so fill it in and cover it with the shade structure.
Yeah. The
Oh,
site wanted that to be a lunch area.
Oh.
If it's close to the new building.
oh,
They said, if
Yeah.
it rain, they like.
yeah,
mix it up,
That's great.
so
okay.
that's the idea.
Good.
And then Santa Cruz Gardens. So the last board meeting, you guys had expressed a desire to incorporate baseball here also. So we have a full size design for Little League size baseball with a track that's roughly a fifth of a mile that runs around. And then we will redo the amphitheater. What we're not showing in this really is the fencing plan. The fencing plan's changed quite a bit. So we'll, that'll be in a separate board meeting. We'll bring that back to you. And then, of course, not to forget the garden. And we're going to give a little bit of a processing shed. Just to view. And that's the amphitheater. Exactly in the same location as with the one that's there.
It's lovely.
Right.
And then you can see a little bit of the fencing that's going around that will wrap around. Some of the view. was it. And then just to give you a little update, we've met with the building science, building J science group at New Brighton. We discussed the plans for the building. So in future board meetings, we'll bring you updated concepts for those. We've also had a design committee meeting on the type of elements we want to incorporate in a modernization, a typical classroom, a typical makerspace. We'll bring that again in the next meeting. Questions?
I kind of like, Ariel, your comment on Main Street, because all the other schools have. How can I say it, that the amphitheater is back against
Yeah,
a berm or the grass, and then where Main Street is turned around,
yeah.
where it's opposite, and I didn't even think of that, didn't you mention it, see, so like that. It does seem more open and not confined.
And the sun's not in the
sun,
kids'
yeah.
faces.
Right.
And it's almost square.
I mean,
compared to like a
Square,
traditional
yeah.
Right.
rounded
Bold,
amphitheater.
I hear that, but like, I think in all of them, right now, the designs are like kids are in the sun. Like, I mean, if that's
They're
SoCal,
in their sun
They're-
with the fate with their
Yeah,
faces.
yeah. yeah.
That's
Mhm. So instead of the back of the amphitheater facing the school, turn it around and have it face out. I mean, I'm not sure how, if
so
that
They
can be
put the
done or put it in
stage
the corner
underneath the solar panels kind of thing.
or in the corner.
the reason we did this is because this area is sloped.
Yeah.
It's
Okay.
sloped, so it's just lending itself to incorporating the slope into the amphitheater. If we reverse it, then we just going in the opposite direction.
Right.
And VJ, what about the corner? I don't even know what this is. It's where the balls get lost in that hedge. It's
By 7.
yeah, by 7. It's the perimeter by 7.
Mhm.
If it was curved along that part of the hill and then more along that border.
Yeah,
Yes, like an L there. That would be more.
yeah, we looked at that as an
Fit-
option too.
Yeah, what happened there?
Do you remember why we nixed it?
We'd have to build up along that edge.
Oh, yeah, that's right, because the way this slopes, it slopes down this way and then it's all flat here. And there's a fence then from the neighbor, so you have to build it up against the fence line. Unless unless we looked at the option of even doing just an amphitheater that was straight. But, making a bowl out here is a little difficult.
Yeah.
And just straight, there would be the same dynamic with the sun.
I think it makes really good use of that hill. That hill has always been a maintenance issue with the dirt sliding off of it, and keeping kids off of it. So when you have that slant that's already there, it kind of lends itself to benches.
To the shade structure.
You won't get a classic bowl shaped amphitheater.
Yeah.
Samples.
Perhaps a different shade structure that's more spread out, like parasails or something.
For example.
Yeah.
Something we're thinking for the high exposure 2 sites, which is Santa Cruz Gardens gets beat up.
Yeah, yeah, very hot up there.
Street as well, maybe just a little less. But so we're gonna do a study on the stacker solutions.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah,
Doing the
yeah.
benches as well as the shade, so
Yeah.
that's still at the works.
Okay.
Okay. Great. Any questions or comments from the board?
No.
Good
No.
suggestions.
Mhm.
I'd like to thank the design committee and the folks on it for their time and effort.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thanks, thank you.
Thank you.
All right, thank you.
Should we see if we have any questions from the public then?
Yeah, any questions or comments from the public?
Oh,
You guys are experts, so if you see anything we need to know.
Food back there.
Child nutrition came up in our conversation outside before the meeting. You guys are high on our list and.
As a former Main Street parent and worked in that kitchen, I really love the idea of utilizing that space right in front of the MU.
That's good to hear.
Yeah.
Who's been there, done.
Yeah. All right.
Graduation last year.
Yeah.
Thanks, everyone.
All right, thank you so much. Thank you, BJ. Thank you. All right, I just, so, when we have the consent agenda, sometimes it comes quick and we don't talk about the items on the consent agenda. But we have some really exciting things that passed on the consent agenda that I just want to put a little acknowledgement towards. So we're very happy to announce that we have approved the new job description for food service worker 1, the range for food service worker 2, and the director of food service and nutrition services. So, yeah, thank you.
And we just want to thank all the work that you do. I mean, it's so incredible that we're able to feed every student in our district. And just from a personal perspective, my son loves these at New Brighton. He loves the food.
Mhm.
Every time I try and say, "Oh, you want me to make you lunch?" He's like, "No, Mom, I want the food." High praise.
awesome. Yeah.
So thank you so much for all that you do.
Yeah, you guys are very innovative in what you do. My kids are trying different things, and it's so exciting that they're getting new taste buds. It's
Yeah.
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 Yes. All right. Thank you all very much. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
Thank you. Yeah, thank you. Enjoy your evening. Thank you. Have a good evening. Yeah, thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Yeah, thank you.
Great hoodies too.
I know. Yeah,
Great team.
I know. I
And
should.
there was one.
I know. That consent agenda, sometimes important things, they get approved because they're, we support them and.
Yes.
So I'm
Absolutely.
Thanks for letting us take them up.
Of course. And I'm so glad they were here to see the design
Yes.
too.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I thought it was somewhere later.
Yeah.
It was going to.
Yeah. All right, back on track. We've been waiting for this. A presentation from Carissa Lemos, Director of Student Services, regarding student services.
Oh, this is our.
With a score of 6-1.
Thank you.
I was looking at that. I was like,
Well, good evening, everyone.
Good evening.
Thanks for having me. You didn't have a choice. No, but really, thanks for your support. I'm always grateful for the chance to come here and talk to y'all. I'm gonna try something new tonight. Scott loves it when I say that, and he doesn't know what it's gonna be. So, y'all are, it's gonna be participatory. You're gonna read some things. Okay. So let me give you those. You only get exactly 3 because, I'm not with Ken anymore. Just get.
We're on a budget. I don't know if you-
No poster, like went well together. Up posted as a hot commodity. Yeah.
I only had 2 extra. So.
do you want us to rip ours in half?
No.
Okay.
So, I've had the chance now to present a few times. Since I've asked you a few times in past presentations, how are the children? And that's really our work. And so, I think it was last time, maybe Amanda, you asked me, I said, how are the children now? And I want to talk about that a little bit tonight. But then you also, somebody asked me, what about the grownups? How are the grownups? So I want to tell you about that too. And as always, also the pets, and I want you to know that they are doing well. And so I told you, it's nice to see you all in open session. I see you a lot in closed session. It's very nice to see you here tonight. And recently in closed session, I told you about a ritual that I have, where in my office, this is a picture from my office. Every Monday, I check our enrollment in the district. And because for me, from my perspective, it's like, okay, I gotta take care of 1,525 kids. I just checked it right before I came here, and it's 1,526.
Right, we got
I want to give this to you. It's a little present.
and an invitation if you all are interested in having this be a ritual of your board meetings as a reminder of what your work is.
Hmm.
And it's to think of
Yes,
our
yes.
1,526 kids and their families and our community.
Oh, that's
So
really
give this
cool.
to you.
Thank you.
Don't put it this way because that's a dream that. Right? So that's one of the things there, and then this other is I received this, I think last year, this is my 10-year pin. And I think about the gift that I have received of being in this district for 10 years. And it's important to me, and there's a reason that I am still in this district and not somewhere else. And it's because I believe in this community and I care very much about it, care about my colleagues, and so it's with a lot of pride and gratitude that I'm here tonight to tell you a bit about how the kids are and how the grown-ups are and what we're doing for both. So I want to start by asking you a question. And this is what your sticky note is for. The first question I want you to answer on that sticky note, and you're only going to have 15 seconds to answer because we're on a time.
Yeah.
JD really took up some time. On this first one, I want you to answer the question, who are you? Think about that. And on that first sticky note, if you wouldn't mind, make sure that it's something that describes the essence of who you are, really truly, and should be something that if it was taken away from you, you wouldn't be the same person. So just take a quick second and do that. Okay, great. That's all the time you get. So set that one to the side.
Should keep going.
Put your next sticky note. And on this one, what I want you to write is the answer to the question, who are you? But it needs to be different from the thing that you wrote previously. Who are you? Something that describes really truly the essence of who you are. And right. Perfect, thank you. And then on this last one, it's a little bit different. What I want you to write is the answer to the question, who are you? And I want it to be different from the last two things that you wrote.
Thinking of the who.
Nice. And here's what I want you to do. This activity came from the book Cultural Proficiency, and the reason I mention it is because everything that we do, right, we need to do it at all levels of our organization. And so this is a book that Scott had us read as an administrative team last year, and the activity came from that. Because if we're only thinking in one level of the organization and not all levels, the work that we're doing won't be sustainable. So what I want you to do is pick the sticky note that you connect most strongly with, that feels most important, which is also hard, right? And then, and I don't want you to actually do it, but I want you to think about your reaction and how it would feel if I asked you to then crumple that one up. And that one, I would say you can't have that one, actually, that part of your identity. Because when we think about identity, and in MTSS, which I'll talk more about, and a million other acronyms, we talk about the whole child, right? And it's hard when whole child sounds great, but like, what are all of the parts of the whole? And so this comes from some work by Dana Crawford, and it's the idea of culture identity and the different aspects of identity that make up who we are, right? So mental or physical ability, race, ethnicity, gender, age, socioeconomic status or class, religion, sexual orientation, language, right? These are all things that make up our identities and the identities of our students. And then we also have to think about where do our identities, our various aspects of our identities place us in terms of proximity to power? Right? And the reason I bring it up here is you all, myself, we're in positions where we get to make decisions, where we're tasked with making decisions, not get to. Sometimes the decisions we have to make are really hard. And I know that we've been together in some of those things in closed session, right? And so when we think about students and the whole child approach and the work that we do, and especially in student services, we really, really try to think about this, because those closest to the problem or need or challenge, whatever, fill in that word, are often closest to the solution, right? But also are often furthest from the resources and power to bring that solution about. And so for us, it's really important in student services to be asking students, to be asking parents who are sitting in an IEP meeting for the first time ever and don't understand it. It's like another language is being spoken. They feel in that moment really far from power. What I want them to know is they actually have all of it. They are the ones who sign an agreement or not in agreement with the IEP. And so it's something that we really take seriously in our work in student services. And I believe in our district, which is why I have been here for as long as I have. So last time I was here, we talked briefly about kind of the history of public education. And we said that design matters, right? Because systems do what they're designed to do. And so we, with a lot of intention, are trying to design a system that brings about equity for all students, in which the wholeness of all students and all families' identity is affirmed and celebrated. And then the time before that, we said, so we're cultivating knowledge, character, and equity by design. We're designing our structures to do that. The time before that, y'all are getting tired of me. The time before that, we watched this video, and that's really where we started to ask, how are the children, and specifically all of them, right? And then, what about those grown-ups? And so, what about those grown-ups? This is something that is very important to me. I think I am privileged to have been here for a long time, and our students benefit from continuity, right? And from relationships, and staffs when they have been together for a long time are cohesive. I had the privilege of teaching at SoCal Elementary, and that staff is a staff that has been together for a long time. And it shows in how they work with kids. And so, over time, it's something that I've really tried to focus on. I think you hear a lot about staffing for, especially in special education, and it's hard. And when we aren't able to hire in-district staff, when we have to hire contractors, it's also very expensive. Typically, on average, it's 1.5 to 2 times as much to fill a position through a contractor as it is to fill it in district. And so in 2022-23, which is when I came on as a director, so I don't have the data from before that. For our certificated staff, 1/4 of them were filled by contracted positions. Real expensive, and not the same. We were fortunate to have some really talented contracted staff who cared about our kids, but it's not the same type of investment. So this year, currently, we have 96% of our staff are in district. And I would love to be able to stand before you next year and say 100%. The tricky thing for that 3.6% is you can only have a position if it exists, right? And so we have one full-time OT position, a district position. Madeline Horn, she's very talented, and the caseload fluctuates, and so sometimes we need additional OT support, but we wouldn't necessarily want to create an additional position and then have to lay that person off should the caseload change. And so what you're seeing there, that 3.6 is that additional contracted position. So in terms of certificated staffing, I feel so proud of and grateful for the teams that we have at each of our sites. They are unendingly talented. They are brilliant in terms of their creativity and how they support students and build them up, and are asset oriented and ask, okay, how do we use the students' strengths to support them in their areas of need? I am just the luckiest to get to work with them. For classified staff, you will hear just across the county how hard it is to hire aides, etc. And that's been a big area of focus for us. I can't take credit for it. It has been a real team effort. But over time, we have seen some really cool growth. So in 22-23, you see this is the distribution of district aides, contractors, and then unfilled positions that we're doing our best to cobble together to provide coverage for. The next year, we improved in that all of our positions were covered. We were providing the services that we were required to, and to do that, we had to rely heavily on contractors. And then you'll see this year, very proud of this. We've almost inverted that ratio. And this is in large part thanks to Caitlin Williams, who's our district behaviorist, and also Sandy and Sandra, because I'm always hassling Sandy. Hey, can you update the posting date? I want to make sure it's showing up at the top of EdJoin. And then, you know, just really, really chasing down those leads. And so this is really exciting because it means that our students are getting more consistent support. Financially, it makes a huge difference.
Yes,
Thank you, Allison.
thank you so much for everything you do. I appreciate it.
And so it allows us to be more kind of cohesive in our teams and provide a lot more consistency. So, you know, that's the staff by the numbers. But when you get good staff, you want to keep them, right? And so something that's really important to me is also culture. What are we doing to support our staff to make them feel seen and appreciated and valued? And my words don't mean that much, but when staff are in a situation where they have the opportunity to support each other and acknowledge each other often and have that be public, it's pretty cool. And so this is something that I created, I think, last year. And staff had the link to it. You can submit a shout out at any time. And I send out a weekly update. And I include from that week all of the shout outs that staff sent in. And so what I did was I created just a video of scrolling through the sheet of the 172 submissions that have been submitted by staff. And it's all staff celebrating each other and the work that they're doing. And it's so cool to see them be stoked about each other. It builds a really positive culture. In those really hard moments where you're like, I don't know that I can do this for you. See you another day. You see your name in that shout out thing, and it makes a big difference.
Yeah, that's really cool.
And so for us, it's not just about attracting staff, it's how do we invest in them? How do we take care of them? They do very, very hard jobs that are difficult in terms of intellectual demand, and they are more difficult in terms of emotional demand. And so when you have a staff who are giving and giving and giving and giving, it's really important to also be filling them as much as we can.
So this is a weekly email that you send out?
Every week, the weekly update. I will make sure that you all have the shout out link in case you want to send in shout outs to staff. And it's something that has become really valuable to us. So who are our staff? These are our staff. These are our teams. And there are many, many more folks who are not on this list. Our aides aren't on this list, but they are an invaluable element of our staff as well. So each site has a team. We have a few positions that are shared across sites, our psychologists, our OTs, etc. But I would say it's a very unique circumstance to have our certificated staff be in-district staff at the rate that they are. So I mentioned MTSS, the multi-tiered systems of support, and this is the work of our team. So I told you, who are our staff? How are they? And now, like, what do they do? Well, they do this, and they do it really well. And so we kind of break down our work into the 3 domains there. So inclusive academic instruction, inclusive behavior instruction, and inclusive transformative social emotional instruction, and mental health supports. That's what we do all day, every day. And so it could not be a presentation about MTSS without a triangle. I have this tattooed. And so what's really important about this feature is the kind of the ratios, right? We say tier 1 supports. Those are the things that we do universally that all students benefit from. And where we often do like inventories. Are we doing all of the stuff that we need to be doing? And then sometimes students will have a need beyond that, and that's okay. And that's when we bring in targeted interventions or supports for students who have an additional need. And then for, 5 to 10% of students, we may need that really high tier, high acuity, targeted individual intensive intervention. That's where you'll start to see a lot of the IEPs come through, things like that. This is just an example. Sorry that it's so small. I'm 100, I can't read it, but I trust that you can zoom in on your PDFs. Of the ways of the different areas, right, that we saw, academic, behavior, social, emotional, like different things that you would see as you kind of go up the tiers in the different areas. This is just an example. It looks different depending on, the area or the district, etc. But I think one question that then comes is, well, how do you know like who needs what, right? And how do you move, how do students, the level of support that they need, move through the tiers? So we do a lot of proactive student monitoring. This is something that I talked to you all about, especially in closed session when we talk about us fulfilling our obligation to proactively monitor student progress and affirmatively intervene if a student isn't making progress. This is especially important in special ed. It's our legal obligation and exposes us to a lot of risk, especially legal risk, if we aren't doing this. Most importantly, it's just really good for kids. So we do a lot to do that. We do elementary site-based data talks. Every single elementary school meets 3 times a year. They talk about every single kid by name in those meetings. We have started doing student services or special ed data talks where 3 times a year we get together, we talk about every single student who has an IEP. We look at their goals, we say, are they making progress? How are they doing? We make adjustments as needed. We engage in regular collaboration. We put our heads together. Our counselors have a fall, mid-year, and year-end retreat where we get together and really talk about how are our students doing, what are their social, emotional, mental health needs, because we have seen that those have exponentially increased in the 5 years since COVID. Our counselors meet regular, in addition to these meetings, they meet monthly to collaborate. What's really, I think, impressive about our counseling team is they have become, their structure and the way that they work has become a model in our county that other districts have said, hey, can we hear more about that? We want to do it that way too. And I can't take credit for that. That's them. Our counselors are so talented and we are so lucky to have them. And I want to say thank you to you all for continuing to prioritize that. I think it makes a huge difference in our students' outcomes. We have regular site cost team meetings with increased progress monitoring. And you might be wondering, what does cost stand for? I will tell you. And we do much more. So cost, right? I think I told you a bit about this last time. Coordination of services teams. This is the referral form. Anyone can submit a cost referral, any staff person, right? Because sometimes I think we think it's the teachers who see students. No, it's the recess coach, it's the crossing guard who sees students cross every morning and they notice those patterns and they're like, hey, I'm really worried about this kid. Let me submit a cost referral. Cost teams at the site meet every 2 weeks. Some sites are so on board with cost that they meet every week. Every SoCal Elementary, for example, one week they review the new referrals, and the next week they check in on old referrals to say, hey, this was our intervention plan. This is what we were going to do about that concern. Is it working? And so they have a really dialed process. So we've been doing the cost process in our district for a while. Like I said, I've only been here in this role for a bit, and so I'm still catching up on some of the data. So this is from last year. The blue line there is the total number of cost referrals per week over the course of the school year, and then the yellow line would be the average per week across the sites. And so last year was the first year that we had kind of a new referral process and a new structure, and so you'll see this. And then for me, the question that I'm always asking is about anything really is it working? And what's really cool is this year so far. And what you'll see is the total referrals each week on average, much lower. Also, the average number is about half. And it's because as we continue to think about that triangle in those interventions and our progress monitoring, especially those tier 1 supports, right? What we find is when we don't have really good tier 1 and tier 2 supports, we go from 0 to 60, right? Well, this kid now they're struggling and their behavior's out of control. I'm not. So no, like when we're more proactively involved, we have less need for referral through the higher tiers of support. So I'm really proud of this data. I'm really grateful for our teams and the hard work that they're putting in, because it's really the folks who are on the ground doing the work. I think it's the systemization of our supports that has really contributed to this. So what are those cost referrals for? Well, this year we did a lot of kind of thinking about our current behavioral and mental health supports. And so I wanted to pull that data out. And so you'll see that almost 40% of all cost referrals are related to behavior, social, emotional, mental health concerns, or both. And what I mean by both is that staff have the option to like check as many boxes as they have a concern about. And so I started to see a trend of like, okay, I'm seeing a lot of referrals in which behavior and SEL mental health are both checked, which makes a ton of sense, right? If a student is really struggling in terms of their mental health, oftentimes that's going to show up in their behavior. And so we wanted to think more about that as we continue to plan and design our structures and supports and interventions. And so I wanted to think more about that. I was like, okay, hold on. Almost 40% of behavioral mental health based referrals include both as an area of concern. And what's really cool is in the consent agenda tonight was an update to the wellness coach position. And that's very related to the work that we're doing. Because the cool thing about the wellness coach and the changes that you saw tonight in that job description was the addition of the behavior piece, right? Because we're really kind of building our supports in the area so that we can provide intervention as it relates to behavior and mental health, so that our kids are in class, feeling supported, being successful, and then you see that come to fruition in terms of their academic achievement. So we have our counselors. Thank you. We have an inclusion specialist. Sasha Talavera is our inclusion specialist. She works with our site PBIS BIAs. She facilitates the class meetings at each site, helps with our progress monitoring, etc. We have a district behaviorist, who I mentioned, Caitlin Williams, who does a myriad of things and does somehow all of them very well. We have a district nurse who can provide support in terms of linkages to making sure if students are on medication that we know what we need to about how that might impact them in terms of side effects, etc. And then we have this year, we have BIAs who are assigned to support PBIS. PBIS stands for Positive Behavior Interventions and Supports. And then we got a really exciting opportunity.
What's BIA? Yes.
Behavior Intervention Assistant.
I
know, so many acronyms. So we received a grant from the state of California via the COE. So the COE got a big grant, and then they got input from the districts in the county on how to portion that out. And so the purpose of the grant was a sustainability grant to support districts in the development of a wellness coach position. You've been hearing from me and other people about CYBHI. Scott, help me. California Youth Behavioral
Health Initiative.
Thank you. Which is really designated funding from the state of California that allows us to bill private insurance for school mental health services. Doesn't impact families. They don't have to pay a copay. It actually doesn't even come from their insurance company. It comes from the state of California. And in California, they created a wellness coach certification. And wellness coaches actually will now be able to submit claims for reimbursement. So our counselors and this new wellness coach position, which will, the PBIS BIA assignment will no longer exist because we got this grant. Here's how the grant works. We have enough funding from the COE to pay for 3 wellness coach positions. So it covers their salary for a whole year. And what I'm really excited about personally, because you asked me, how are they growing up? So I want to tell you, we have so many talented classified staff in our district And something that I'm really passionate about is providing them growth opportunities, right? And so one of the things I'm pumped about for the wellness coach grant is so long as somebody meets the certification requirements in terms of an associate's degree or bachelor's degree in a related field, they don't have to have the certification to apply. We actually, the COE will be providing the supervision. They have to have like clinical supervision for, I think it's 1,200 or 1,500 hours, so that then they can become certified. So we get to grow. My hope is that all three of those positions will be filled by current classified staff who apply for those positions and who we get to invest in. It's a win for them. It's a win for us in terms of longevity. These positions are benefited, which is huge, right? We always lose staff to other positions because they need benefits. And so really, really pumped about this change. It's a win for kids. Our wellness coaches, our counselors will be able to submit for reimbursement. Our goal is that up to 50% of those positions, of the cost of those positions, we'll be able to recoup through the reimbursement process through insurance. I'm excited about it. Allison's excited about it. And most importantly, it's a win for our kids. It allows us at a time where mental health services are being cut in many districts. We're really proud of and grateful for our district's commitment to maintaining that level of support and finding creative ways to do it. This is another just like for your perusing later. It kind of looks at specifically mental health from that MTSS lens of the three areas that really school-based mental health providers focus, right? So academics, college and career, social, emotional. And we'll just give you examples of up the tiers, what some of those supports would look like. What do our counselors do all day? They do this. In fact, they do it a lot. So at the time that I pulled this data, which I don't know, was maybe a week ago, this is how many counselor contacts were logged so far this year. It's so many. And so they are busy all day, every day, working with students, working with families, providing consultation to teachers. And one thing that they do and that I wanted to make sure to talk to you a little bit more about, because we talked about this in November, is provide linkage support. And so we have really kind of doubled down on our efforts to proactively identify students who would be eligible or considered homeless under the McKinney-Vento Act. So
How would you identify them?
well, I'm glad you asked.
We're gonna go into that?
Yeah. So every year, families fill out a residency questionnaire, a housing questionnaire. And it asks them about their housing situation. So it used to be a separate form that they would fill out, and now we've embedded it in our Infinite Campus portal. So when you have to redo your parent portal every year, you get a bunch of phone calls if you don't, etc. Just an invitation to remember. And so families fill that out at that time. That's one way. The other way is relationships. When a kid comes to school and is like, oh, this actually just happened at Main Street. Kid comes to school really tired and got there late. Hey, what's going on? Well, we had to move in a hotel last night because we got evicted. So those relationships, are also how we find out. More often,
Well, at
really.
least the student was able to tell.
Exactly.
The counselor,
Yeah.
whomever they were talking to.
Exactly. So this is the identification piece is really an area that we've been focusing, because when you think of homeless, you think unhoused, you think sleeping outside. McKinney-Vento applies to students who are staying or living in a shelter. Shared housing, we have lots. All of our McKinney-Vento, our students who have been identified as eligible under McKinney-Vento, currently, all of them are in the doubled up category.
Unfortunately, with homeless is a stigma. I mean, when you say homeless, many will go to Coral Street. And that's what they think of too. And I'm not sure how. I mean, I know the teachers and the staff understand, but other students too, and what they hear.
Yeah.
Me too, so.
Agreed. The Santa Cruz County Office of Education has kind of renamed their point person who's kind of over supporting districts with their homeless student program as the Students in Transition Coordinator, because that's really a more appropriate and less stigmatized way to describe it.
Bertha, are we saying unhoused or homeless? Has there been I recall last year there was a change in the vocabulary on my own education.
What's tricky is unhoused in the law really refers to those families who would be in a situation where they are not in a shelter, they're not in a hotel, they're not doubled up, they truly are unhoused, right? So they're sleeping in a car, they're sleeping outside, etc. So we try to use language really specifically. So when I would use the language of unhoused, that's specifically what I'm referring to. And I try to use language specific to the situation, right? So instead of just a blanket homeless statement, I might say a student whose family is living in a shelter. I might say a student who is doubled up with another family. I would use unhoused in the third instance. Or I would say temporarily living in a hotel or motel, because language matters. I appreciate the question. It's so important to your point of that stigmatization and making sure that we're being very intentional. We're designing a system, right, that kind of removes some of that. So we have received grant funding to be able to provide gift cards for school-related expenses, for groceries, for Saturday and Sunday when kids aren't at school.
Where's that come out of? I'm sorry.
Oh,
Grant?
Allison, did it come? It's a state grant or a
Oh,
federal
it's a grant, okay.
grant?
Yeah.
It was one of the titles that we're able to use. It was one of the
Yes,
state ones.
yes.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Is this grant something we can rely on in years to come, or is this a kind of a one-time only?
It's a small amount that the district does receive and we can use it for various things. So this was one good use of it. So we should be receiving it ongoing, and it's one of the titles. Offhand, I can't remember. If it was
So the district receives it, then we request the funds from the district. I'm guessing every school district is requesting these funds from the CO, from the district.
So each
we receive
district,
them automatically.
based on their like unduplicated student count,
Yes.
receives a specific amount of funding.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
So we don't have to request it. It's.
No.
It's
no.
federal, it's
I'd
federal
love-
Title I funding?
Yeah.
It's not Title I.
Okay.
It's 2 or 3. I can't remember which one it is. Yeah.
So it's federal,
Well, that's
so
great.
I hope we get to keep it.
Yeah, right.
Okay.
Yeah.
So any school-related supplies, we also are able to provide support in like gas cards to get kids to school. There's a school where after a student was absent for 5 days and we were calling every day to verify their like attendance. Hey, are you doing okay? Notice you weren't at school. We found out eventually they just didn't have gas money. They were just out of gas. And so we were able to provide support with that. We also, in certain specific instances, can help with transportation. And then linkages, right? Our counselors spend so much time chasing down linkages. They are tenacious. They don't give up. Sometimes the wait lists are long, and our counselors' patience is longer. And so, we have 13 students currently eligible under McKinney-Vento. And if you click there, you'll see a linkage kind of a library that our counselors created last year and continued to update as they learn about new resources that we might be able to connect our families with.
I have a question about the cards again. I'm sorry.
No, that's okay.
So you're gonna have students, you're gonna have parents who are on something, you know, I don't want to say it, but how do we know that the cards are being used for school supplies or gas and not for something else?
Yeah, well, I appreciate the question. I think and I don't think this is what you are implying, but I think one thing that's important to remember is it is not the case for all of our students who are in a situation in which they are homeless or in transition. Not all of them are related to substance use. I think that's an important thing to say. And the short answer is we don't know. And I've yet to encounter a circumstance where we have reason to think that that's happening. We have kids who come to school so pumped to show off their new school clothes. We have kids who at school they are able to access food, and like we heard tonight, it is often the case that students prefer
Yeah.
no offense. Especially grant funding sometimes has very specific reporting requirements. In this case, we don't have to provide receipts, we don't have to do anything like that. We do use a lot of close judgment, and we stay really connected with parents.
Yeah, and we do keep a log though, and we make sure that the cards are checked out and so
To
forth.
sign them out it takes
Yeah,
about
'cause
17 signatures.
Yeah, we did create a process
Yeah.
to make sure that
It's
it's going.
Do the cards vary in amount, or are they static?
They are all each.
Depending on
each
the
are,
the
each card is
store.
$50.
Yeah.
Other questions on that?
The 13 students, is it a mix across the school sites?
Yeah, that's a good question. I don't, off the top of my head, I can't remember any kind of specific trend data. I always think in terms of like specific circumstances. So I'm thinking of like one family with multiple students, etc. But specifically in terms of like percentage of those 13 at each of our sites, I would say it's fairly mixed across all of our sites. There certainly all 4 sites are represented there. And the specific data, apologies, I don't have it.
Okay, I got a question.
Yes.
So a while ago, it was during the summertime, we had a kid stay with us whose home life was horrendous. And if it was a school year, because they're not from this county, if it was a school year, would they be able to enroll into our district?
Good question. So the McKinney-Vento Act, the law and related, as it relates to school registration, is very specific. So when a student is eligible or considered homeless under the definition provided in the McKinney-Vento Act, the intention of the law is if a student is enrolled in school and then because of their situation, they have to move out of the district, but are still in the area, they have the right to remain at that school. They have the right to choose really any school, regardless of residency. And the specific intention of the law and the way that it's most consistently applied is the right to remain. Right. So we had a family that we've been working closely with another district on. The districts are really collaborative. Right. So a family originally were residents of another district. And then they were in transition. They were in a shelter for a period of time. They were unhoused for a period of time. Then they got into a hotel. And the idea was, okay, you had a good thing going. You had a support system. We'll let you stay there. But then you have younger siblings who aren't in school. They're really young. You all don't have TK. So we'll put them in our TK program and then work together between the 2 districts to provide them transportation, since the older siblings are at this school over here and the TK students are in our TK program here, and the 2 districts work together to provide transportation to kind of bridge that gap. So the short answer of the McKinney-Vento law is they can go to school anywhere. The intention of the law is that they would be able to remain at the school that they were attending previously prior to being in transition.
Okay.
Other questions? But really, how are the children? And how do we know? I think I told you all about the mug that somebody got me. That says relax, I have a spreadsheet. I just love a spreadsheet because it's really important to me to be able to say confidently, I know how the kid's doing, let me tell you. The thing is, data alone isn't helpful unless you're cognizant of the human story that it tells. And we try to keep that very central in the work that we do. So we've got a lot of different data points, but I did want to highlight the California Healthy Kids Survey for you all. This logo is a hyperlink, and you're able to go into the individual reports. They're very long. I think they're 173 pages. So maybe you don't read them now, but do read them because the information is really, really important. I think about the board policy that you all did a lot of really important work on in regards to equity. And you'll see that come through in some of our data. So we have different metrics. We have California Healthy Kids Survey. We have our universal screener that we administer twice a year. We have our counselors. We have the elementary chick survey. But really it's important to me because we want to look at all of the information from all of the perspectives. And something that I really noticed in looking at this was the overrepresentation of folks experiencing or reporting levels of chronic sadness or hopelessness, and how it disaggregates across races. And the overrepresentation of feelings of sadness and hopelessness for students who are Hispanic or multiracial. What's personally concerning to me is this chick survey was administered in, I want to say late October. And a few really significant events have taken place in our country since October. And I feel like very fearful of what the next administration of the Chick survey will look like for our students. As we think about our immigrant community, as we think about our students in the LGBTQ plus community, you'll see that here, right? At the secondary level, students have the option to self-report regarding their sexual orientation or gender identity. And you'll see really kind of concerning statistics. So my school is safe for fill in the blank. And I think for me, one of the things that when I really started to dig into this data, one of the things that really stood out to me was this statistic. My school is safe for teachers and staff who are LGBTQ+. 5% strongly disagree, 13% disagree. And what's really staggering is for anyone, the thing that keeps us alive is the hope that it gets better. And the hope that it will eventually be okay. When we are in a moment of crisis, kids and grown-ups alike, right? That's the sustaining thread that gets better. And so for me, as a grown-up who has multiple degrees, who has a job, who has a support system, right? That's one thing. But for our kids, who are out there watching the world around them, the thought that does it get better for me? If this is my perception of how adults are experiencing the world, man, it's a lot to sit with. And it makes me proud to work in a district that is intentional to think about equity, intentional to think about designing a school structure that intentionally affirms and supports all aspects of a student's identity. Right, because this is from the Trevor Project, having at least one accepting adult students are reported to be 40% less likely to attempt suicide in the last year. So yeah, go ahead.
Are these questions cross-referenced with students who have self-identified?
When you look in the report, it would disaggregate all of the items in all of the different demographic ways that we can.
Okay.
And so, yes, it will show, I believe this question took out the students who declined to state. So I think it's about 13% of respondents did choose to make a selection. And so this data is reflective of, oh, apologies. No, this is all 7th grade students.
Okay. So do we have a way to assess whether the students who said strongly disagree or disagree are students who identify with being LGBTQ, or is it more of an assumption that we probably make?
We don't. Well, I think what's interesting, to be honest, is I would say that this is representative of both. We don't have a way, just because the survey is very confidential and that's important. We don't have a way to know to disaggregate in that way. But I think it would be representative of students who would identify as being LGBTQ plus and those who wouldn't also. Because kids, right, they're so perceptive. And so this would be both. So we look at the tiers, right? And we think about what we're doing, different levels of supports that we're providing. And then we spend a lot of time looking at it. I know I sent you all in the Friday update, just a quick summary of some of the data talks that we've been doing. All 4 sites do them. We look at trend data, right? So this was the most recent trend data in regards to special ed eligibility across sites. We look at what's going on here. This is 20% just higher than the average, or the other sites, what's going on there. We look at like speech only eligibility, and if it's higher at one site or another, we look at all of that and ask what's going on there. Do we need to do anything? Does it make sense to us? And we just try to be curious together about it. And then I know I also sent you an update recently about some of the really, I think, powerful work that's being done in our district around inclusion of all students, but especially of students with disabilities. So this is the law. It's like the bare minimum. And I'm really proud to be in a district that does much more than the bare minimum. So the bare minimum requires that, to the extent possible, we educate students in the least restrictive environment with their non-disabled peers. That's the minimum. That's just like the law. What we really believe in though is rightful presence. And what that means is we believe an environment conducive to learning and personal growth is established first and foremost through the cultivation of a culture of true belonging. Efforts toward that goal must begin with the presumption of the rightful presence and inherent value of the disenfranchised. Inclusion efforts alone cannot bring about substantial change because they adhere to the same guest-host power dynamic that serves to normalize the existence of a group who is invited, and then the groups with the power to invite. So it makes me think of different models of inclusion, right? So there's exclusion, it's just like, nope, this isn't for you. There's segregation, so like you have the in-group and the out-group. You have integration. And then sometimes you'll hear people talk about this as a model of inclusion. But really, what you'll notice is like there's still two groups here, right? There's this homogenous group, and then there's other people who have been allowed to be in that space. And for us, we really think about all of the aspects of identity, and that's when you get to belonging. Because every aspect of one's identity is different. Everyone gets to be exactly as they are, and then just be in a space with their peers, their teachers, with their community. And that's really what we strive for, is a model of inclusion that centers around belonging and the affirmation of the whole child in our district. So schools establish environments conducive to student learning and growth by building a culture of true belonging that recognizes students' full humanity, inherent value, and enables them to freely bring their culture and whole selves into the school. More simply put, inclusion opens the door, says, yeah, come on in, you can be here. And belonging is like finding your seat at the table and feeling comfortable to share your food. And that's kind of what we're striving for. I went over 18 minutes. Jeff was betting me.
I believe you owe me.
I do.
Okay.
You win. Any questions?
I don't quite know how to say it, but I'm just gonna go for it. Because I'll reveal one of my postcards was overthinker or overthinker. Overtalker, overthinker. Thank you.
Me
first
too,
of all.
apparently.
No, thank you. Your presentations are always incredibly informative, and I love all of the linked data to be able to look at for the meeting, after the meeting, super helpful. I so appreciate what your team does. The connections and the one-on-one time they've had with our students and their families. And I'm thinking about the data and how much information you need. And you're so incredibly organized. Is there a way, if you can summarize, like, how does your staff record that data in a way that allows them to find that balance in like doing the work, but also capturing the information you need?
Good question. There's not a like easy answer. What I will say is we try to really develop structures where you only have to put in the data once and then you have a way to manipulate it. Because our systems are only good if they're manageable.
Yeah.
And our team, they have a lot to do already.
Right.
And so sometimes it looks like me entering a bunch of data, and that's fine with me because I love a spreadsheet and I'll do it all day. But we also do a lot of training around, okay, if we know like this is the type of data that we need in the end game, and then we backwards map, okay, if this is the type of data that we need, what's the best way to get it with the least amount of work? And that is what I really love to think about because I'm a real nerd in that way. And so we try to design our metrics for, okay, how do we get the most information with the least amount of kind of labor?
Thank you.
I have a few questions. First, I want to say how grateful I am that you are at this district because I mean, everything that I just heard, you have so much passion and so much care and just, I don't know, even the shout outs for the staff. You just have a really wonderful, full picture mindset that I think our students are really lucky to have. My two specific questions are on the cost data, there was a pretty large other category. So
Yeah.
what are some of those things?
Good question. Other can include concerns related to reading, writing, and math. It can include attendance concerns. It could include a health concern. We had a student recently who had like a fully rotten tooth and was just like showing up to school every day. And we were able to kind of catch that. And Vicky is so tenacious. Talk about tenacious. That kid had a dentist appointment and a way to get to the dentist real quick. It could be, I mean, those are the big trends, but it truly could be absolutely anything. I would say that of the other categories, the biggest kind of chunk of them would be academic in nature. If a teacher has a concern about speech or OT or any number of things, that's what the other is.
And then on the CHIC survey, I think it is, on the perceptions of school safety, how have those changed over the last couple of years?
Good question. In the full report, if you go all the way to the end, it has trend data over time. For 3 administrations in a row, our student perception of safety trended, I always forget it, like you want it to trend down or up. It trended in the direction that we wanted it to trend. This last administration, we had a slight uptick in the percentage of students, at least on the CHIC survey, reporting feeling less safe at school. What I'm really grateful for is one of the really important kind of data science things is multiple metrics. And so the universal screener, on that slide that had all of those different kind of pie charts, I think I said it so that you, through your district email account, as long as you're signed in, are able to click on those and disaggregate data across the specific items on the universal screener. So we measure that twice a year and are able to look at trend data across grade level, across school sites. That screener is not de-identified. And so I could, if I wanted to look at the item of like, I feel safe at school, and I wanted to know that list of kids who said never, I don't know who they are so that I can do some empathy interviews and understand what's going on there. I can get a list of those kids and ask them some questions. Yeah. Did that answer your question?
Yes.
I just want to say, I'm really amazed at the level of care you bring to our schools.
We have a really, really great team. I'm grateful to be a part of it.
I love the shout outs to staff. And I love that you're thinking about full identity and belonging. I think that's just amazing. That's where we want to be. So thank you for all you do.
Thank you.
And your team.
Yeah.
I want to know what you wrote on your little cards.
Right. Well, you'll never know.
I have one more question. Is there one thing that you would want us to know that, if like, what is the thing that you are really focused on for the next year that you see as kind of our biggest opportunity that we should be aware of and helping to support you in?
Yeah, thank you for asking that. A huge priority for us is behavior support, student mental health. That to me, and from my personal perspective, from my academic background perspective, like that's paramount and foundational to student academic achievement. I think where I tell this to staff all the time, like we sit in meetings and have the most like intense conversations about minutia. And what a cool place to be in, where we are refining our processes, we're kind of tweaking them a little bit, but it's because they're all really established. So where we're really focusing is, okay, if we've been investing all of this time and energy and resources into getting our kids into their bodies and into their brains, so that they can be regulated and responsive. Now we need to have the very best instruction. Something that we are really trying to focus on is we're seeing not just for students in special ed, but for students, large bands of students, right? Some achievement gaps in really specific areas. And so we're really trying to say, how do we build in opportunities for targeted intervention for our students across larger swaths of students? Because it's not the case right now where it's just 5 or 10%. We're seeing, oh, 1/3 of students are struggling in the area of comprehension of informational texts. How are we providing professional development to all of our staff to address that, so that we're not saying, oh, it's well, just like the intervention teachers. We are all intervention teachers at this point. And so how are we addressing some of those needs that we've kind of seen lingering coming out of COVID, and then being more intentional to address them in a more broad range, not just in those really targeted intervention spaces. So a big focus for us right now, and what I would want you to know is that we're really trying to focus on kind of squeezing from the rag, like every single opportunity for intervention that we can think of. And that is one thing I would want you to know. Okay.
Thank you. And I also wanted to mention, I am so proud of your numbers. 96.4% of certificated staff are district employees, and 64.3% of classified are district employees. That's just, that's wonderful on our budget. It's wonderful for morale, for student relationships, for, you know, giving people benefits. I mean, it's just, it's great all around. Way to go.
Yeah, I mean, I can't take credit for it. I'm one of a team, but yeah, I'm really grateful for that and very proud of it. as well.
Yeah.
I'll just dovetail on that just for 2 seconds. The one thing, everything impressed me, obviously, but I loved it when you said you're looking for growth opportunities for your people, because you can't keep staff if they're doing the same thing over and over again, and you're not giving them the opportunity to grow. And I loved when you said that was important to you, and that's important to all of us. If we can't grow our staff, we're going to lose them to somewhere else, and after we spend time and money investing in them. And I love that you want to give them that opportunity so they can grow with the district and as part of our community.
Yeah,
That's
I mean,
huge.
I agree. Like, I am a product of that, right? I started in the district as a 1-to-1 aide, and then you all just kept trusting me. And I'm not sure.
We make some pretty good decisions.
All right. That sounds like that's it. Thank you so much for a wonderful presentation.
Yeah, expect to see you use that counter.
Yes.
Well,
You might have to help us
if it
keep it
goes the right
updated. Yeah,
direction.
yeah.
Thank
Thank you very
much.
much. Good night. Thank you.
Would it be okay if we
Is it-
close
yeah,
the door?
Yes.
Thank you so
My
much.
ankles are freezing.
Yeah.
All right.
I must be on a totally different time zone from all of you. It's like, I'm always like, oh, it's perfect.
All right, moving on to 5C, discussion regarding the LCAP.
Well, thank you. Tonight's discussion about the update to the LCAP does not necessitate a slideshow, but there is a slideshow. And I'm going to limit it to a few slides because we had such an amazing presentation from Student Services. I will just be very brief. So I'm going to just talk to you about 2 of the slides in particular. And those really go into some of the changes that we're seeing this year. So just the student participation oops, I went too far. In the summer school program this year has changed, and in past years, it's just been students that were performing below grade level. But this year, because we're using only expanded learning opportunity grant funds, we are going to actually change the first line of eligibility to be unduplicated students and students who are below grade level. So unduplicated students, as the board knows, are foster youth, homeless youth, English learners, and so forth. So we're really trying to capture just those students because the funding source necessitates that. So that's the biggest change up there. And then, sorry, I'm going the wrong way. Sorry.
And is it only those students now? Has that changed?
It has changed.
Okay.
And so this slide also lists some of the changes for this year. And then there are a couple of extras that I didn't list because this was a public document before we actually made some agreements. And so some of the bigger changes to the program this year is that there will be an on-site lead teacher, but there will be the person who works inside the staff office. It will be a district employee. So we will take an employee that we already have that works a 12-month contract and we'll be switching days so we can eliminate some of the overhead costs for the summer program. We're going to offer one single session this year. It'll be the 20 days will all be in June. So it'll be all held in one fiscal year. And then the other change is that we'll have one class per grade level K through 6. And that's because the grant funds up through 6th grade, not 7th and 8th. And we've included 7th, 8th in the past at a cost to the district. And we're really, because we're using these grant funds, are eliminating that. We'll be splitting the counseling costs this year. So we won't have a counselor every single day. But we will have a counselor there most likely on the beginning of the week and the end of the week where we see most of the need arise. And then we were able to accomplish an afternoon partnership with CKC. In the past, we've used ELAP funds to fund different programs, which was a large expense. CKC is offering us 20 spaces for our morning ELAB students to participate at a reduced rate for their afternoon program, and we will pay that reduced rate. So in the past, they were not able to do that for us, and they are really showing great partnership to be able to support our students to do that. SoCal Elementary will be the host site this year. And in the past years, we've had it at Main Street. And then the last thing that's not on this list, and that was just an agreement that we made after having spoken to our cabinet and our SEA and CSEA presidents, and that is that we changed the compensation rate. So the compensation rate for our employees for summer school has been reduced. It's still a good number. It's still a nice number, but our hourly rate for class teaching is $50. It had been $75. And then that same rate will move into next year. So all the ELAP that we have this year will still be $75 an hour. It'll move into the $50 beginning of the summertime. So those are the changes that we've made to scale down a bit and reduce kind of our cost on our general budget. Funds budget.
ELAP budget, yes.
Can I ask how many students fewer is that for this year in, having the eligibility changes?
It will probably change. There'll be two things that will change. One is our DLI students will be with our English students. So it will reduce the opportunity to have those in separate classes. So that's about 10 to 12 students in each of those grades. And the other thing that it will reduce is, again, that 7th and 8th grade, that section. We don't typically get a lot of 7th and 8th graders. We haven't traditionally got a lot of 7th and 8th graders over the past couple of years because they're preparing, the 8th graders specifically are preparing the bridge program into high school. The other numbers won't change too much. The one impact that it will have is that students who we have in RSP who did not qualify for extended the ESY program, we were including in our summer program, and unless they're unduplicated, they would not be attending. So, and some of them are crossover students. So those are the things that we have had to make big decisions about. None of these are easy decisions. That's my LCAP update. Normally I'm a little bit more chipper, but these are things that we have to do, and it's part of the work is just to preserve what we have. Any questions?
I guess it's maybe just a clarifying question for me, understanding the way it's administered. It sounds like, it's like a teacher in charge? Like, is that the idea? So there's a teacher who's.
You met her at the in the fall, Caitlin Williams. She came and did the presentation.
Oh, okay.
She was the person that was in charge last year. He's also shown interest in maybe continuing that, so we'll post that.
Okay. All right, thank you so much.
Thank you.
5D, discussion regarding board policy 3280, sale or lease of district-owned real property.
Okay, that's me. So this one's a fun one, since there's a lot of additions. So you'll see right off the bat, and by the way, this was an existing policy. It was just updated by CSBA, just so everyone's aware. So, added SUESD in the beginning. As you can see, second paragraph, number 4, the provision of July 1st, 2024, where it said that, the sale of these surplus property that has not previously operated and so forth, that's been deleted. And then going further down, about the 5th paragraph or so, there's some more deletions, and then a big section there was added for with new requirements about declaring surplus property and basically the procedures of what the district needs to do regarding surplus land and exempt land and all that fun stuff. I'll let you guys read through it since there's so much and let me know if you have any questions.
Yeah, we're gonna dispose of any land.
Yeah, that's my question. Do we
Like,
have any
okay.
surplus land? Like what?
Yeah.
No.
We don't own random property on Old San Jose Road or something.
No, unfortunately not.
Yeah.
It'd be nice. No, it's just following the
Yeah.
CSBA.
Yeah.
Tell me where to buy a school bus.
Yeah.
So everything is the recommended language updates from CSBA as opposed to our one special nuance that we have, which is the TED rule of making sure that our name is in there.
Yeah.
Personalizing it. Thank you.
Yes.
And I don't have any questions.
I don't have any questions.
Yeah.
All right, thank you.
Great, thank you.
5E, discussion regarding board policy 6170.1, transitional kindergarten.
Great. Well, thank you. I'm back again. And so this board policy, again, suggested by CSBA, the additions. A little bit, something to note is that the changes include some of the changes that are relevant to the 24-25 school year, and some of them are relevant to the 25-26 school year. So sometimes they catch up. There's some specific areas that I'll draw your attention to under the eligibility section. It defines the age of the student to be eligible in TK. And it also defines what cannot preclude a parent from participating in terms of other programming. So if a student was in a state funded preschool for part of their day, couldn't preclude them from that. We don't have any students that fall into that category, but we at some point could. The other section, curriculum and instruction. There's a specific section that talks about the LPAC, which is the initial assessment of English performance. And we don't give our TK students that assessment because they're too young. And also LPAC hasn't created it yet. So that's the reason that addition was made. In that section, there's also some discussion about the length of the school day, what the hours are not to be exceeded. And that can be changed if the board decides to change that, but that's not the recommendation of CSBA at this time. And there is a big section in there that relates to California state preschool programs. Again, we do not have anybody in this district that are in those California state preschool programs, but if we did, this policy would cover that. And then the last section there where there's a little change is that the staffing section talks about the ratio of students to adults. And so that's not something that you would see in kindergarten, but it's very specific to the laws of transitional kindergarten. So those are the adjustments to the policy.
All right. Questions or comments?
Why do they do September 2nd to June 2nd? Why not September 1st to June 1st?
You know, has not been ever anyone who has enlightened us about why that is the case. I would have to believe it's not arbitrary, but I don't know how it's not arbitrary.
Well, isn't September 1st that, like, if you're 5 by September 1st, you can go to regular kindergarten?
But that's next school year, right?
Any day that there would be
Yeah.
is an arbitrary day,
Yeah.
right? And it's very possible that the conception was that's about when school starts.
Yeah.
That's
Back in the
that's
day.
yeah, that's
That was an
my
question.
yes. Any other questions about the policy?
I don't have a question about this policy, but I know that at the gardens, there were some questions that have come up about that, the enrollment policy for TK, which is sort of like, the next level down. Have there been any adjustments to that?
We did, as a cabinet and then as an ADCO team, we talked about which students would be best served by the, priority. And so we did discuss, and thank you for asking the question, and I'm sorry, I'll just go into it for a second. But we did talk about unduplicated students as being kind of that first group that we would place. The students who had special programming like an IEP or like some specific program that they had to be associated with, and that was a priority, was also at the top of that rubric. And then we went into the staff, obviously. And then we went into siblings and continued enrollment. And then the last one was just the parent could make a request based on a specific circumstance and talk to the principal about what that specific circumstance is. So there's like 5 levels.
Okay. Great, thank you.
All right, thank you so much. Moving on to action items. 6A, consider adopting the resolution and approve agreement for the Santa Cruz County Office of Ed temporary.
So this is one of our routine annual resolutions. And this would be in the event that we needed cash to make it through the last couple months of our fiscal year. And again, this would be from borrowing from the Santa Cruz County Office of Education. Every year, I remember last year.
Every year.
Robert's like, I remember this every year.
I had questions last year, so I don't have questions this year.
First year.
Yeah, and it's just a
Wait a minute.
safeguard. Yeah. And it's just a safeguard just to make sure we have it in place, so.
All right, questions or comments from the board? Sounds like we've been through this.
Check.
May I have a motion to adopt the agreement?
I'll make a motion to adopt the resolution and approve agreement for Santa Cruz County Office of Education, SCCOE, to provide temporary cash loan to Soquel Union Elementary School District.
All right, a second.
I'll second.
All right, this is a resolution vote.
Trustee Edmondson.
Aye.
Trustee Gray.
Aye.
Trustee Dickinson.
Aye.
Trustee Jackson.
Aye.
Trustee Donnelly.
Aye.
All right, resolution passes. 6B, consider adopting a resolution for the County Office of Santa Cruz to provide temporary cash loans.
So again, this is another one of the annual resolutions. It would be in the event that the district did need some funding to carry us through. And it would be a temporary cash loan from the County of Santa Cruz. And this would have interest if so needed.
All right, any questions? Similar to the last? Do I have a resolution, motion?
I'll make a motion to consider to adopt the resolution for the County of Santa Cruz to provide temporary cash loans to the Soquel Union Elementary School District.
Great. A second?
I'll second.
All right. This is also a resolution.
Trustee Edmondson.
Aye.
Trustee Gray.
Aye.
Trustee Dickinson.
Aye.
Trustee Jackson. Aye. Trustee Donnelly.
Aye.
All right, resolution passes. 6C, consider approving the award of a lease back agreement to Kent Construction for the New Brighton Field.
So we are excited to bring this to the board. We met with about 5 companies through the RFQ process. We're very transparent. The committee selected or group selected Kent through a transparent and competitive process. We ensured we look for the best value for the school district. We've evaluated on cost, timeline, quality of work, contractor's experience. And with all that in mind, Kent did score the highest. So we made the qualified choice to go with Kent for the New Brighton Field project. We did check on their I'm sorry, not reviews.
Referrals?
Referrals, thank you. Yes.
References?
References, that one. We got it together. Sorry.
It's
We did check upon their references and they had really glowing references. We checked local school district that currently is, has a new field that was put in by Kent. And again, it was glowing. An architect also gave them glowing reviews, as well as an inspector of record also gave them glowing reviews. So that really helps us, solidify our decision to go with Kent Construction.
All right, questions or comments?
Have they done fields in our county or any of the schools?
Yes, they have.
They're the ones out of Gilroy.
Yes, they are.
Okay.
Gilroy. Mhm.
There's a lot of Kent constructions.
I just have a question on this, the Article 3 or Section 3. The loan payment back, is that basically how we are paying them, the lease payments?
Well, what that is that's for basically pre-construction costs. So that's kind of, they'll have all these pre-construction costs that they pay up front, and then we'll kind of pay them back as like a lease payment as we go through the process.
And the guaranteed maximum price page, I didn't see that, but I
To
mean,
be attached.
it says attachment 2 and to be attached, but is it somewhere, or what is that guaranteed maximum price?
Let's see if it's attached. Sorry. Looking through the back. Sorry, it's a very long and
It's so many pages.
we have
Can we do a control F? Does it come up?
we and our legal team DWK work closely with them on this contract. Sorry, yeah. Let's proceed. I'm sorry.
And just to, maybe Scott can answer while you're looking, but just to refresh my memory, that we did lease back in the last
We
bond,
did,
right? And that
yes.
involved something like with the gardens, as a funding measure. Am I remembering that all right?
Santa Cruz Gardens.
Or-
Um,
There was some kind of lease back agreement, I think, to
yeah,
just.
we've done multiple
remember
times
we did.
before.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. It's just, it's one of the funding or, mechanisms that's used mostly around the state. It's just, it makes everything clean, and the board passed a resolution earlier
Yes.
to allow us to do that.
Yeah.
Makes the process just a little more streamlined.
Yep.
Yep.
Thanks.
And I am not seeing anything that refers to that page. I was assuming it was a page above and it printed funky because that was their fees above.
Yeah, so is
Right.
that it? That 210?
That would be their cost. And it doesn't include the cost, of course, of all the field labor for the subcontractors and all of the material and so forth. That's the cost to Kent.
Okay.
And I can get with legal and have Luke answer this question, and I can get back to you.
Okay, I don't think it needs to hold up us making a decision on this tonight.
Okay.
I just would be interested in knowing what that
Okay.
number is.
Yeah, because it says attachment 2, but it looks like it's out of order. Okay. Make sure to do that, and I can send it to you guys. The answer.
For the record, the superintendent is not Scott. That's the superintendent of the project, right?
Maybe in a single school district.
A nice little $102,000 for your services.
Get a hard hat, let's go.
Yeah. Whatever it takes.
I hear you.
All
Good
right.
question.
Any other questions or comments? All right.
Sounds like a thorough process. I'm glad you were able to find
Yeah.
someone so well qualified.
Yes, yes.
And I appreciate going 5 deep and doing all the,
Yeah,
you know.
we interviewed every contractor and took our time to make sure we really went over everything and went above and beyond even to reach out to additional references and so forth.
Okay.
Yeah. All right. Would someone like to make a motion?
Sure, I will make the motion to approve the award of lease back to Kemp Construction for the NBMS track and field program
All right.
project.
A second?
I'll second.
All right. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed?
Is it a resolution? There's a bunch of whereases in there.
There's a resolution.
Oh, it doesn't say that on here. On the,
Yeah, it does not say it on.
my bad, resolution.
Trustee Edmondson.
Aye.
Trustee Gray.
Aye.
Trustee Dickinson.
Aye.
Trustee Jackson Miller.
Aye.
Trustee Donnelly.
Aye.
Now we've double eyed.
Aye. All right. Resolution passes. Great. Moving on to 6D. Consider adopting the student transportation plan.
So this is another annual plan. And with this plan, what we do is we put our, our revenue in and all of our expenses in, and it does a little calculation all on its own. It's super simple, as you can see, and it'll say if we should be receiving a little bit more funding or if we wouldn't be receiving any more funding. Based on this calculation, it looks like we wouldn't be receiving additional funding. It's just required that we take it to board every year. For it's been the past few years, it's pretty new. And so it's another one of those that we just kind of have to bring it to make sure that we're in compliance.
So we're approving not getting any money.
Unfortunately.
Okay. I don't approve.
And the scope of the transportation services remains the same.
Yes, absolutely.
I don't have any questions.
Yeah, we all said no.
This goes back to the thing, it's like the report on reports. Like CSA talking about like the number of reports that are required and
you bring up
and now I'm like, okay, I'm in my 10th year on the board now, and like it's more and more and more and more. So thank you for doing the work. But for so many of them, it's like that doesn't quite fit who we are.
It's like you bring something up. I got a report for that.
Yeah. We're gonna get you a mug that's like Marissa's spreadsheet mug.
Yeah.
It's like the second or third year we've had to do this.
Yeah.
So now that this routine, maybe next year, if board feels good about it, we can just put it in consent.
Oh, yeah.
There's some
Yeah.
absurdity to
Mhm.
have it.
I would
do it,
agree.
right? Yeah.
Consent
Okay.
makes sense.
I'm down with that.
Okay.
Thank you for doing it.
Yeah.
All right. May I have a motion?
I'll make okay.
Ted.
Okay, I'll make a motion to adopt the student transportation plan, not getting any money.
Okay.
Transportation plan.
I didn't think you were gonna approve it. That's what I was gonna say.
Okay, second.
I'd be happy to second it.
All right. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? All right. Thank you.
The break, Allison.
No, we're on our home stretch.
Eighth inning stretch.
Right here.
You got it. 6E, consider approval of the second interim budget report for the SUESD district.
Just have the clicker 5,000. No, I just have to make sure I can stay in sync with my scrolling and the clicker. So here we are at second interim. So we're going to go over the district budget reporting schedule, the overview of second interim, review of general fund, and looking forward along with any questions. So here is the timeline that I've kind of been adding in here. It's kind of helpful to tell us where we're at. We're in March at second interim. We're going to be starting our LCAP budget development soon, as well as looking forward to the May revision from the governor. Let's hope it's, you know, positive and it goes the right direction. And then we'll be bringing the June budget for 25-26. Okay, so key factors in second interim. It really relies on the LCFF, the governor's budget. So right now we're basically kind of in a projected budget state for 25-26 and 26-27. As we know that COLA is remaining the same for this year, so we're good there. We forecast enrollment based on historical trends, and we do the best we can to get as close as possible without going over. We also look for future costs, but we also have to keep in mind declining enrollment when we do the MYP for the out years, because we know with declining enrollment, our costs going out should be reducing. And then our expenditure assumptions for salaries, retirement, healthcare, and all those fun things, you know, our PERS is continuing to go up. STRS is remaining flat, but we are projecting, always it's the thing for PERS, CalPERS, it goes up slightly each year. Okay, let's get into, oops, I lost my slide on my side, so I can't see it. There we go. Okay, so getting into the numbers, right here, we're looking at unrestricted and restricted. You can see that for 24-25, we have the 1.07% COLA. It might be hard to read. 25-26, it dropped down to the 2.43% from the 2.93%. And in 26-27, we're at about a 3.52% COLA. Now, again, we're still looking at 25-26 with about an $80,000 reduction in our LCFF revenue due to that drop in COLA. And then going into 26-27, we're still experiencing a little bit of a drop in the COLA compared to first interim and adopted, about like $16,000. And that's kind of due to the shift in like ADA enrollment and so forth, based on the demographic study. So I had to do, I dropped our enrollment in our out years, not to be fully 100% with the demographic study, just had a little bit of a buffer in there. But I definitely did drop in the out years to ensure that we can kind of capture a better multi-year projection with that information that we received. You can see federal funding as of right now. It's going to be relatively flat in the out years. State revenue about the same as well. Local revenue, you're going to see it's slightly different. You'll see 1.1 million for 24-25, 25-26, and 26-27. It dips down, and mainly that's due to the funding that we received for the flood. So that went into local funding because we received the about $250,000 back for everything that needed to be replaced for the flood. And then the transfers in, that goes to our maintenance department from capital facilities. So I had to increase it by about $2,000, which isn't bad from first interim to second interim. So we're still pretty much on track.
That 3.52% COLA, that's from the state?
Yes.
And did that go down when they reduced the 25-26 COLA, or has that been the same for?
There was a slight change with that. It went down slightly. The one that really went down was the 25-26 from 2.43 or from 2.93 to 2.43. But we'll see. We saw a little bit of a drop in the LCFF funding due to me having to do an adjustment with enrollment and so forth. Kind of, it's like a trickle effect because of 3-year average.
And it's possible we'll get updated numbers in May.
Yes, we can all be optimistic. We're not sure which way it's going to go, but I have been reading that, you know, our big 3 taxes have been coming in a lot higher than anticipated. So that's a plus. So let's hope that we see those dollars. And this is just a pie chart of showing our restricted and unrestricted revenue. Where we see a majority of it. It's the LCFF funding. That's why ADA is so important to us, because this is where we get a bulk of our funding, and local is a pretty good chunk as well, state, federal, and then our transfers in is a smaller piece. So now we're just looking at unrestricted projected budget right here. So this really tells us what the budget is, what our expenses are, and the line that we really are focusing on is the deficit spending, so the red line, so the third line down. So you'll see it's 1.3 for 24-26, and then with the agreed on reduction in 25-26 with our FPT team, we said we wanted to reduce about 500,000. So that brought it down to 1.1 million. Going into 26-27, based on attrition and any positions that become vacant when we get into that year, I projected about another 500,000. Depending on where we're at, the third year out could always change. It could go up, it could go down, but just kind of projecting to be aware. But we'll see that deficit spending, by taking the proper steps ahead of time, is starting to go down. You'll see that for ending fund balance, the third line up, the 2.4 million, almost 2.5 is where we're ending for 24-25. And that would be after the assigned funds. So that would be if we have additional costs for SPED. I have about 200,000 in there, which I really want to commend Carissa for keeping her costs down. I didn't have to do an additional contribution into SPED, which is usually typical as the year goes on because the needs and goes up usually for what we have to expend out. But she's been doing a great job. The kids have all been getting all the services they need, and it's really paying off with all of the in-house staff that we're able to hire. So I really commend her for that. So and along with the 300,000, it's SPED and textbooks. So about 100,000 for textbooks and about 200,000 for SPED. If that all comes to fruition in 24-25, that would leave us at about right under 2.5 million. But if there's anything that doesn't really come to fruition, it'd be closer to the 2.7 million, 2.8 million above. So, and then you can see there's our reserve percentage, 11.34 before the assigned and 10.13 after the assigned. Our required reserves is 3%. That's the state standard. So I kind of put that at the bottom just so like it stands out so we know what's required. We never want to be there, but that just to show. And then you'll see that in 26-27, we're at 6.48. But there's about $400,000 in there kind of set back in the event that we need it. If we do, it'll bring us to about 4.71 if everything as it sits right now. Again, a lot can change from here to there. So
Yeah, that 4.71 looks really, really low. Is that a number that we have seen projected, like that in the out year typically?
yeah, so at first interim it was 4.93.
Okay.
Yeah. So it's been around there. So, but like I said,
So this cycle for 26-27.
Right. Yeah.
I mean, historically.
Like not.
Right,
that's
right,
the spot or answer.
yeah,
Yeah, that's what I
yeah.
thought you meant. Like we never saw this in 18, 19.
No. I'm
16,
just, right,
17.
is it typical? I'm channeling my inner Phil. No, is it typical?
Oh,
Because that's
yeah.
Good
that's a
Phil.
low number, and I'm just like, I get that it's the third year, or
Yeah. No, but that's why
are we
we're
getting close?
yeah, no, and that's why we're starting now to do
Right.
everything we can in hopes like the work we're doing now to get that number higher, to
Yeah.
change it, to make it that we have more reserves. But as it sits right now, that's what it looks like. We don't want it to look like that. So that's why we're doing the best we
course.
can to bring that number up. And like I said, if you look above to the 6.48%,
Mhm.
that would be if we didn't have the additional costs and so forth in there. So
Right.
Yeah.
But I mean, they're, and it's so important that you've got that additional assigned cost for the SPED and the textbooks, but more typically we do need to use some of those assigned costs, right?
This year we're doing pretty good. Like I had originally, I had about 400,000 in there, so I reduced it to 300,000 in second interim. So I'm hoping that we don't need to use it even for this year, and maybe even if we use half, that would still be a great help going into next year. So typically, I just put it in there for like a buffer as to make sure that we have that in mind, and we can see what the bottom line would look like if we have to use that. But yeah, yes, I know. Yeah, with the textbook
But
adoption.
we'll get the books.
Yeah. Yes. So yeah, and like I said, I work towards trying to get that number up.
Yeah.
And that's why I'm always the no person.
Yeah.
And I'm the person like get another quote person. And yeah. And so that's why and mainly the reason why we did have the little change from first to second interim is when the drop in the COLA and the drop in enrollment to ADA based on what we're seeing in the demographic study. So just so you know, we're safe and we're looking at everything.
Okay.
Thank you. You're welcome.
I think to me, the thing that makes me nervous about that year is the COLA, because the COLA number as it is makes it so that we're actually increasing our LCFF revenue from 25-26 to 26-27.
Yes.
And so if that COLA number goes down, that's going to be a huge impact to that buffer, which I mean, I know we're at the mercy of the state, but that's why I was asking about how we feel about that. That COLA, because it.
Yeah, so the COLA was in the common message. It was also School Services of California, their dartboard. So I checked both of those areas to see what they recommend to use for budgeting.
Yeah.
And that was the recommended number based on the governor's budget as well. Yeah, but I understand what you're saying. And you know, we still 3-year average as of right now, it's not going anywhere. So that is also a help as well.
I don't think there's anything we can do at this moment. I mean, 3 years out, there's so many unknowns.
Yeah.
But it is uncomfortable.
And to Ariel's point too, how accurate is that 3-year projection out, or how accurate has it been in years past? I mean, is they nailed it? Is it off?
It's weird. Sometimes it's really close and sometimes it's not. Like
So,
you like take this year for instance, we saw a huge drop. It was supposed to be at about 3% or so, and it dropped down to 1%. The other couple things that we have going for us though, we do have the mental health reimbursement that's not factored in here because we haven't seen, we don't have all the specifics of it yet.
Insurance program?
Yes, yes, the insurance program that she mentioned. So that will be a help as well. Until I see it all, I don't like to really add it because I don't want to be too optimistic, because what if they change something and then, so that's, you know, one other thing to be positive
It might
about.
not be here
Right.
in 2 years.
Yeah. So, but that is something, because we estimated roughly maybe about a $200,000 reimbursement that we could get. So that would be a big help. Yeah. And then here is a pie chart showing our unrestricted expenditures. You can see that salaries are a big part of it, with certificated salary, classified salary, and the benefits. So the lighter blue, dark blue, and orange. That's usually what we want it to look like right there. And then you'll see we have capital outlays, super small, services, and books and supplies. And services is a little bit bigger as of right now too, because we did have the added cost for the flood again. So that keeps popping up, so.
At first I thought that was Capitola. I was like, Capitola, when I glanced at it.
Oh, yeah.
I just glanced like, Capitola.
Yeah. And then
that's what it is.
It's like a kid's sweatshirt. Yeah.
It's kids. I was like,
the picture
Yeah,
behind. Oh, it's a student in the background. Yeah.
It's Capitola.
I like to try to incorporate our
I think
students.
Capital is covering the certificated salaries.
Yeah. On the slide before this, how do you estimate the benefits and the costs for those, and how that rises and where that will be in 2 years? Do you assume there's a 3 or 4% cost in healthcare and health costs and things like that, benefits costing?
Yeah, so
I know you have a good, we can project really well salaries, right?
Yeah.
Based on tenure and things like that.
yeah,
That seems like a really tough thing to try to estimate, is how much the cost of healthcare and the benefits are gonna go.
yeah, and especially with when we're saving on nutrition and saving on any and filled positions, it's kind of like best estimate. I try not to reduce the benefits too much because of the inflation. So I really leave them pretty close to what they are currently right now. That way that gives us a little bit of a buffer in the event that anything changes.
Does that usually stay pretty static from year to year?
For the most part, yeah. And
Really?
Expo, especially, well, as far, no, the changes, the increase, no, but as far as like when I do the estatements, I try to get as close as possible. So that part's pretty static. So the way that all kind of rolls out, we're usually in a pretty good spot. Because I don't make huge reductions to it. I kind of keep it as status quo for the most part. We have reductions in positions, and then that kind of flushes out the increase. So that kind of helps with the increase. Yeah.
And are you asking about the cost of health plans to employees, or how we have to figure our contribution to that?
Both, actually.
Well, because the contribution is a little more static. You can figure that out by FTE.
Yeah.
Right.
Because we know the cap.
Yeah.
We would like it to be higher,
Yeah.
but
Right.
but yeah, the difference between that and the cost to employee can go up based
Yeah,
on
that's true.
what the plans are costing us.
Right,
Yeah.
because I know mine, yeah.
Right.
I'm sure everybody's, they don't go down every
Yeah.
year.
Yeah. Yeah, and that's true on that front. So we have a standard cap. So our costs wouldn't go up. Where it does go up is like CalPERS, for instance. So that percentage is rising every year. And so that's where we see our biggest difference. So
Thank you. Yeah, appreciate the clarification.
and then let's see where I'm at. I went back. So this is just an overall look of just the restricted side of the house. And again, with the restricted side of the house, you'll see that there's deficit spending here, but there's one-time funding and so forth that's sitting in the fund balance. So therefore, since it's not in the revenue piece anymore, it's just in our fund balance. That's why we need to spend it down. So it's just spending down any of our one-time funding that's still kind of out there. So looking ahead, we're really looking forward to the May revise to see where we really end up. And that's, we're hoping we end up in a good place. We want to continue to monitor special education, rising costs across the board, continue the lower amount of outside services. And again, we've been doing a great job with that. And continue to promote our schools. DLI, it seems like, has been doing great. We've been having a great response this year. So that's super exciting with SAGE and then ELOP programs as well. And then continue to reduce our deficit spending with talking about with our FPT team, and continue to consult with School Services of California and then attrition. Any questions or comments?
It's a comment. Thank you for answering the questions throughout. I know I've said this several times. I really appreciate the way you display the numbers. I'm doing this a long time, but the way you present it makes it, the way I learned, I feel like I'm absorbing things and understanding them even more than I used to. So I really appreciate that. And I just also really want to thank you and the cabinet. I think our district, we're fortunate, and it's with the talents of our team that we are in the position that we are in this economy and with declining enrollment. And I know all of our neighboring districts are not in the same spot. And I feel really, really fortunate that we are where we are in this season of March and not having to make some of the same difficult decisions other people have had to make. And I know we're belt tightening and the FPT is working really, really hard.
Yeah.
And we're planning ahead, but we're, things could be so different. So I just really want to congratulate and thank you for where we are and the look that we're taking ahead. It's a good approach.
Thank you. I appreciate that.
Yeah.
I'll say, yeah, thanks for everybody. There's a lot of people on that FPT team that aren't in this room that sacrifice their time
Yeah.
and are really smart people that I think understand a lot of the challenges that we talk about in those meetings. And it's hard to separate sometimes emotion from what's happening. And there's a lot of people that do a lot of great work on there.
Yeah, absolutely agree. Thank you for that.
Any other questions or comments? No. All right, may I have a motion?
I'll make a motion to approve the second interim budget report.
Great, a second.
I'll second.
All right, all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, motion passes. Thank you. Correspondence, future agenda items. May I have a motion to adjourn?
I'll make it.
All right, a second.
I'll second.
All right, all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Adjourned. Thank you all. We don't see each other for months, although